Hello and welcome to Tea with Jess. Today it's just me. So I'm looking forward to sharing a few things with you. I'm Jess Montgomery and I'm the author of the Kinship Historical Mystery Series, in which one of my characters, Nana, says, "Life is hard, have tea." And that's why I started these little Monday tea breaks, sometimes just me and you, sometimes me with a guest and you. So today, my mug is an oldie but goodie. It's our daughter, one of our daughters. We have two. One of our daughters who played the trombone in high school marching band. So it's been a while. This mug is, let's just say, over a decade long. And we got to visit with her recently for a very blessed almost 3 weeks. And then also got to visit her where she was doing some training earlier in the fall. So we've been very lucky to get to spend time together, my husband and I and both of our daughters, quite a bit this fall, late fall. So I'm very happy about that. What else can I tell you about? Well, I want to tell you about this short story. I'm pulling it up, the cover. It's available as an ebook format only. Um, oh gosh, let's see. The light is not doing me any favors here, is it? Oh, downriver. the There we go. There we go. So the story is called Downriver, and it's an ebook format only. It is a short story. Anybody who has gotten it via any of the ebook platforms and is disappointed that it's not longer than a short story, it does say short story on the cover. So it is a short story, and it's not part of the kinship series. It is historical. It's set in the past, and it's about a woman kind of looking back at her life and some events of the past and the mystery behind them and how those events shaped her. So I don't want to say more than that because I don't want to provide any spoilers, but you can go to get it directly on any of the ebook platforms that where you might get ebooks, um, or you can sign up for my email newsletter if you haven't already. And I've set up kind of a three-tiered package for people who sign up for my email newsletter, where basically you get this story, you get some additional content that only subscribers to the newsletter get. It's not available anywhere else. Letters that relate to the story, The Widows, which is the first in the kinship series, and a couple of other goodies and information for people who are kind of new to being in the email newsletter subscription. So if you haven't already subscribed, I hope you will. Um, Also, I just wanted to share that for the balance of this month, my tea with Jess will be just me. I'm giving myself and other people a little break because we're coming up on the holidays. But I'm looking forward to starting fresh, a new season of Tea with Jess, starting in January with guests the first and third, hopefully most months, the first and third Monday of every month. I've got a few lined up already, and I'm working on lining up some more. So I'm looking forward to sort of continuing the Tea with Jess conversation with other authors for at least half of these times that I get together with you on Mondays. And by the way, if you didn't know, Tea with Jess, the ones where I interview other authors and the occasional visual artist, is available as a podcast. So if you're a podcast lover, that's a great way to also keep up with my interviews with other authors and the occasional artist. And the reason I do those is because I used to write a column for the Dayton Daily that often involved me interviewing authors. And that column wrapped up this past May. And I really kind of missed having that chat. So it's fun to have that chat just a couple times a month. It's very refreshing to me. They're always fun chats. And I think for anyone who's either interested in creating their own work, um, or who's simply interested in how do writers or artists create their work, it's kind of an interesting behind the scenes look. You definitely get some tips and ideas about how to create, how writers create their work. And there's some similarities. It's interesting that there's some definitely similarities um, from author to author, but then there's also always a unique spin here and there on how we create our work. So I enjoy that. Um, and I hope you will continue to join me in 2022. How does that sound? That sounds so weird. The year 2022, as I just share with you little tidbits from my life a couple times a month. And then also on the first and third um, Mondays, share a chat with a guest. Hmm. Earl Grey, my favorite. I also like lemon ginger. Now, I want to also do a little it's not an unboxing, it's an enveloping from a mail that I just got from the Book Cougars podcast. Speaking of podcasts, so the Book Cougars podcast. Um, I'm opening the envelope as we speak to see what's inside. I am a patron of the Book Cougars podcast, and I have this little note that says, "Thank you so much for being part of our Book Cougars community, Emily and Chris." So there's my little note. Emily and Chris are middle-aged women who love to read books. They're just book fans, and together they're friends, and they interview authors in much more depth than I do. The podcast can run like more like 45 minutes or so. They've had some amazing guests on their podcast, including me a couple times, and I'm hoping to be on again in 22. I support their podcast as a fan, not because I've been on it, but because I like to listen to it and find new reads and hear what the authors have to say, the story behind the story. So to their Patreon supporters, they sent these lovely bookmarks, Book Cougars. Isn't that gorgeous? So, it shows their um, uh, new logo, and it looks like radio waves, and it shows, their name, of course. And each bookmark has a little quote on the back. So, for example, here's one from Pat Conroy. You get a little moody sometimes, but I think that's because you like to read. People that like to read are always a little effed up. Pat Conroy from The Prince of Tides. And from by Min Jin Lee from Pachinko, my absolute, just one of my favorite novels and novelists of all time. If you haven't read Pachinko, read Pachinko. Just an amazing book. Learn everything. Fill your mind with knowledge. It's the only kind of power no one can take away from you. Isn't that great? Here we go again. Learn everything. Fill your mind with knowledge. It's the only kind of power no one can take away from you. And so, if you are interested in following their podcast, and I highly suggest that you do, just go to bookcougars.com. You can find out more about their podcast, become a subscriber, read their show notes, get a lot of great ideas for books to read, to share with others. Um, I'm a big fan, obviously, so I wanted to share some podcast love with you all for a much more sophisticated podcast than mine, but certainly an inspiring podcast and one that gives you lots to read and enjoy. So I hope you are all doing well. Until next week, take care of yourselves, take care of one another. Remember, life is hard. Have tea, and I'll see you in a week.